True.
Just my apologies. I was trying to get a coffee, you know that, because it's been a long day. So I'm going to try to keep my energy up. 420, I'm going to need your support today. It's going to
Oh,
be an interesting one.
I got you. Yeah. No, I did some admittedly very light research for this episode, but I'm also interested to hear everybody else's perspective on this general topic, to just take it all in and maybe learn something.
Yeah, definitely. How are we doing with listeners and sharing and people being able to access the space? I see we are not on the Epochs End Twitter account yet. Are we still being limited by technology?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe it takes a couple days for them to register or something. I don't know. Maybe it wants you to be above 600 for a certain amount of hours. You
Oh,
know what I mean?
maybe,
Could be something
maybe,
like that.
yeah. Because we have a very special epoch coming up.
Which one is that?
I posted about it. Obviously, I expect you, Cardano 420, to study every single one of my tweets.
I tried. I mean, I try. So,
No. Basically, I think Shelley went live on Epoch 208. So Epoch 28, no, sorry, 208. And then there's 73 epochs in a year. So 73 plus 208 is.
someone sticking with pride.
There's a calendar out there. I can't do the math.
Oh, that's terrible. All of you guys, this is shocking. I think it's 208 plus 73. That's
Oh, it's so important,
281.
but you don't remember it.
Sorry, everyone. My apologies. I'm going
We'll
to
figure
do
it
the
out.
sympathy. I'm going to do the sympathy card and tell everyone, it is my wife's birthday today.
Oh,
Do you
nice.
know that? But yeah, yeah. So I managed to, tell her that this is important. I can't
Yeah.
miss one. I've done this for so long, and
Sounds like a wonderful person.
yeah, no, she saves me from myself, so I have to thank her all the time. But no, so just going back to the point. So yes, we started Shelley a year ago, end of July last year, and we're going to hit our 1 year anniversary at the end of this month. So that's 1 year of Shelley, and I think with the new Gogan rollout coming out, everyone's getting excited about smart contracts. There's some nervousness and what have you. So I think there was a bit of a delay on one of the releases by a few days, and everyone sort of panicked like they normally do. But when you look back and you just remember Shelley, you think, well, actually, Shelley was an amazingly smooth rollout. Like, yes, there was some sort of toing and froing at the beginning during the test net, but when it actually came to mainnet, the quality of the code was amazing. So I'm not so concerned about smart contracts. I think whether they release in 1 week or 2 weeks or whatever the date is, it's going to come out and it's going to be amazing. So I'm not worried. I'm just kind of trying to watch the process, see how it comes along, and keep people informed and avoid any FUD or worry that might come from people who are new and don't really understand what's going on.
That's true, Guru. I mean, it's the 1 year anniversary of mainnet, and it was such a thing of myth and legend for so long, it felt. But now you look back and it's like, oh, that wasn't that long, and it went really well.
Yeah, literally just a year. I mean, less than a year ago, Shelley went live. I can't believe that. And that was,
There's just
and
so
the
much hand
reason,
wringing and like stress, like involved with everything, which is
yes,
natural. I
yeah.
mean, that's just part of business and whatnot. But it is funny when you look back.
Yeah, and remember, Shelley was the first step in getting us into the consensus layer and, the key topic of today, decentralization, because suddenly Shelley allowed us to have staking and stake pools. And that's when the whole gates were opened and all the madnesses started. So if we just kind of take a step back, and what I really want to talk about is decentralization and why it's important without lecturing everyone too much. But I don't want it to go, just talk about stuff because that's a bit monotone. And the whole point of Twitter Spaces, we get to speak to other people and hear your views and have some feedback and discussion. So for me, I just feel like once you understand what decentralization is from a very fundamental level and why it's important, a lot of the other questions later on fall away. You don't have to ask yourself each time, well, is this good or is this bad? Because you then know, hold on, the whole purpose of this thing is to make our system so secure that I don't have to worry about anything going wrong. Like if my node goes down, the system will be okay. And that's the beauty of decentralization. So one of the things that I want to talk about is what we call a synchronous system. So it's not synchronous, it's asynchronous. right? Everyone with me?
I'm with you.
Okay, good. So what that means is that nodes can join and drop out of the system, and they don't always have to be online. And that's why it's very robust. So I think some people try to spread a bit of FUD and say, look, if you're running a really small pool and it goes down, that's terrible. Actually, that's not. The system is designed for that. What the system doesn't like is people running 20 pools, but nobody wants to talk about that.
Well, yeah, it's a good point. And I'm what would you say is your overall, if you had one overall theme, one overall idea that encapsulates the 1 year anniversary? What would it be for you, Guru?
Oh, the first thing that comes to mind is survival. It's strange because as much as I talk about that, it's very tied into what decentralization is, because the whole purpose is to create something that's so spread out, that's so chaotic and so unpredictable, you can't go in and kill it because there's no central point for you to attack. Now, if you're somebody with a big face and you come on Twitter or come on YouTube and you've got 20 pools, I know who you are. I can shut you down. I know where your cables are. So don't talk to me about decentralization like you know what it means when you're doing dumb things, because you're demonstrating your stupidity. So, yeah, come on, let's have a chat. I'm ready for this.
Well, I mean, and well, let's focus on the positive sides of decentralization, right? Because there's a lot of positive things in regards to decentralization that, are gonna, a lot of these things, like you said, are gonna fall away as we just focus on decentralization and how each person should have their own node. That's an empowering thing, and it would actually be better for the network to have as many independent nodes as possible. So,
well, so technically, when you run Daedalus is a full node wallet. So you are technically running a node in the network, and therefore you're part of the network. You're not part of the consensus mechanism, so you can't decide what block is approved or not because you don't have a stake pool. But as a node, you're part of the network. You're monitoring what's coming in, what's going out, and you spread everything that's being shared, all the transactions. So therefore, you're part of the network. Does that make sense?
Happy Epochs End, Monad. Do you have speaking?
Hey, Monad's on.
I finally made it for one of these.
The man, the myth, the legend, the man behind unsigned algos.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm pretty good this morning. I think on the topic of decentralization and why anyone is presumably interested in a blockchain, right? It's important to recognize that when we talk about like transactions per second or something like that, that if you didn't have a blockchain and you were just like running an accounting system on top of like AWS or whatever, you could have thousands and thousands of transactions per second, right? But by switching over to a blockchain, you're doing something that's a lot slower. And if you're not getting something for that, reduction in speed, then you have to ask yourself, why are we doing this? And so that's not knocking blockchains at all, but it's saying that like having a blockchain that isn't decentralized is really like you take on a lot of baggage and a lot of technical like weirdness and slowness, and you better be getting something for it. And if you're not, you should have asked yourself, why am I bothering with this in the first place?
It reminds me a lot of the early internet. I don't know if many of you remember, but there was this thing called the intranet. Do you remember?
I still use one at work, right? I have a silly landing page on my companies, right?
Exactly. So at the beginning, a lot of companies, especially phone companies, they had this thing called a walled garden. The idea was that you could get their version of the internet, which they ran on their servers, and they kept you safe. So, and that didn't work. It took a few years, but eventually people figured it out, like, hold on, this is pointless. So I think as much as in crypto, some people want to avoid the big questions of, look, why does decentralization matter? And then how does that affect my behavior? What should I do in a decentralized community to make this community stronger? How do I contribute without being a centralizing force? And again, like I said, people with their actions demonstrate the ignorance. I don't need to listen to somebody to see what they've, how much they don't know, because you're doing something.
Let's dwell on positive thoughts. Yes.
Sorry, I do. But the dark side is strong. 420. The dark side is strong. People have upset me this week. So decentralization. So the purpose of it is that it should be indestructible, right? You should have no single point of failure. If you do, then your thing doesn't work. What's the point of it? Monad. I stopped Monad.
I have some stats real quick, if I could just share them with everybody, because I thought it was kind of an interesting encapsulation of how this, like, the centralizing force of our current like fiat system. And I don't mean to get like all weird on everybody, but just the idea of, if you look at the value of the US dollar since the inception of the central bank, which is like, it's in the name. It's so interesting that it's in the name, that this is a central bank, that this is the entity that will control the distribution of the money, essentially. But yeah, so at that time, it obviously held value to the people who were buying into this, or else I don't feel like they would have. You know what I mean? There must have been some benefits and some people had reason
to give some context to that. I think it's important to understand context of why things happen. We think we understand, and that's where we can hopefully learn from each other, right? So one of the reasons that we had that thing happen with central banks is because before central banks, you had loads of private banks who were issuing their own money, and like most things, you give a man money and the power to create money, and he gets corrupt. That's just a human nature, right? So we had all these small banks, they were doing crazy things, and people couldn't get the money out. It was a disaster. So what they said was, look, trust me, I'm the big guy, I am whoever, and me and my cartel will look after you. And the cartel has been running America for however long now. And that was the deal they made with the devil. And now we have the technology where we don't need to trust any person. We remove all intermediaries, and it's an indestructible system. So your data, your transactions, your money can exist in a system that can't be destroyed by anyone.
Well,
that's what we're trying to aim for. That's what we're trying to get to.
Get this. So in 1913, the central bank in the United States was founded. This is not an exact science here, but just the concept. Since then, $1 in 1913 has the purchasing power of about $27 today. So that's an average inflation rate of just above 3%. And essentially, your $1 is now worth it's like 3 cents. You know what I mean? So it just shows the centralizing force of any industry is going to enrich the people at the top. And in the banking system, it's no mistake that it's obviously like suddenly the bankers become the richest people in society, in any given society around the world. But at the same time too, we're seeing it in like all kinds of industries around the world that the more you decentralize these systems, they become more fair. Certain incomes get distributed more fairly among the people who are taking part in this system. Instead of going to this select few.
Did you ever catch the video by the Lehman Brothers CEO before his whole system collapsed, before his bank collapsed, where he was like, I want to take that guy's heart out and eat it?
Oh, yeah. He was definitely doing cocaine, I would guess.
And you're like,
if I had to guess.
You're like, yeah, and you're like, God, what sort of system allows this maniac to have that much power? This clearly is not a smart thing to do. And we are very fortunate. We are in a time now where we have solutions, but people like that can't have power in our financial systems anymore if we make the right decisions and the right choices to keep our system decentralized.
Well, and do you feel it would be accurate to say that, so essentially an inflation rate, if we look at it in crypto terms, here's what I would say about a coin with similar statistics, right? If there was a crypto coin set up in 1913, I would say, the guys who control, or the people who control that coin, are obviously minting new coins and giving it out at about 3% a year. And then they're taking that money and enriching themselves and the people around them. And how is it any damn different with what we see with like essentially all these central banks around the world, not just in the US, just the general system?
I'll tell you an interesting story, because my stories are what keep me going sometimes. So when I was an auditor, and I used to go in and audit banks as part of a team, I wasn't that senior at the time, it was very early in my career. But it's fascinating because I got insight into a world I wouldn't have got if I wasn't there. and you see the way things are run, and you're like, wow, like in the front you've got this very fancy brand, big building, but behind the scenes is chaos. And at the end of the year, the auditors come in and try to tidy it all up and go, does this make sense? Like, what are you guys doing? And then one of my debates I always just have with my colleagues is like, do you know none of this money is real? Like, they just create it out of nothing. And there are people who are auditing banks that did not know that that was the case. And that was shocking because they just knew how to do their bit of the job. They'd go in, check the 3 numbers, tick, 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 I've done my job.
Yeah, that's scary. That's
so
how it all happens. I mean, just...
So there's a beautiful article by the Bank of England. So if anybody ever challenges you on this, and you say to them, look, money's not backed by anything, it's created by banks. They'll say to you, no, that can't be right. The government creates it, or it's backed by gold. Or there are still people out there who believe this, by the way. So send them this article from the Bank of England. It clearly states how the banks have become commercial banks have become the center or one of the pillars of money creation in our system. And they've actually just said that in black and white on the website. You can go and see it.
Well, and you know, when you start thinking in those types of, like, with these types of concepts, another thing that kind of jumped out at me is the idea that during times of war is usually times when M2 increases, which is M2 is the magic money. It's just the funny money on the computer, and they're typing in digits. And so it's like, oh, yeah, so the banks are benefiting indirectly by these, you know,
but here's the
during times of war. So it's like this.
But here's the thing, Fortwinny.
Just fulfills itself over and over.
Yeah, I was going to say, Fortwinny, I don't want to talk over you because sometimes there's a bit of a delay, so my apologies. But what I'm saying is, like, that funny money that you're talking about is indistinguishable from the money that you work for. So you can go to work every day, work your ass off, pay your mortgage, pay your bills.
Don't say this. Oh, it hurts. Don't say
and that money is the same as the money that guy's created. And he's basically gone to a credit committee. They've said, yeah, tick, tick, tick. He's done a development, made some money, took it out, and he's rich.
I'm going to create an OnlyFans.
I think basically you need to find people who own banks that's plugged into the central banking system globally, and they can basically generate credit for you. So if you have a good idea, they can just print a whole bunch of money and give it to you.
And that's the key. That's kind of how they keep the thinking professional managerial class loyal to this system, is that they have your credit score, and that's just your leash, and they just yank it, and then you do what they, and you're like, okay, yeah, I'm coming. I'll do what you, okay. It's like a dog on a leash, and that's just your credit score, and they can basically just use that to make you their, you know, anyways, it has benefits. There's benefits to a good credit score, and that's how they buy loyalty, and people just buy into the system. And they're just like, how could I be getting so rich if it was evil? It's like, I wouldn't be so rich if this was an evil system.
Yeah, so just pulling it back to decentralization, I think the point of decentralization is that if you then have a system where nobody's in charge, these type of things can't happen. Nobody can be a favorite. Nobody can, you know, pull the system to their advantage or start controlling it in a way that takes it in their direction. So that's why for me decentralization is so important. And when I see that in Cardano, I want to be like, look, let's make it as secure as possible. Let's reduce leverage. Let's, you know, get more people involved. Let's make the network wider and bigger so we're more robust. Because let's be honest, right? I hold a lot of Cardano. I don't want to see it go down the dump, right? That's why I'm so passionate about it. Partly because I believe in decentralization, but partly it's in my own financial interest to make sure that the network runs as it's meant to, so that it keeps running and it keeps being sustainable in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 100 years.
Ultimately, though, Guru, it is, I mean, that's a very positive message, but it's also something that's up to the protocol to really decide. I mean, it's not something that you necessarily have to carry. You could just demonstrate it with your actions, because ultimately we can't rely upon the system to have goodwill, building that backbone. It just can't be. It has to be the protocol incentivizes the behavior that works. And we just got to get to that point over time. That's the only path.
Yeah, I think that brings me to there's something that's been sort of lurking in the back of my mind, and I wonder, is Cardano too smart for most people to understand, and therefore they can't use it? Am I barking up the wrong tree?
You must listen to the Guru if you want to understand.
Speaking about the protocol, I wanted to share some thoughts about, like, as I learn Cardano more and more, especially the protocol layer and the whole ecosystem, there's certainly some points of centralization that exist today, but there are plans to reduce, those points of centralization. And I wanted to outline a few, and these are things that I'm looking at. And I think until 2025, there's still going to be a bit of centralization. I'll give you a few examples. For example, all our stake pools right now, they use a topology file, and they talk to topology servers to figure out who the other stake pools are. And that's going away, obviously. Like, we're working on P2P. But even then, you look at Daedalus, and it uses Smash servers, and Yoroi uses a centralized 88 pools. And even, again, I didn't know this until recently, but tokens and pool names can't have duplicates. It's legal to get 1% one and 1% two, or to grab, the Guru pool. You can do that. So there
I
needs to
learned
be,
that recently too. I didn't
yeah,
know that either. I
there's
saw
going
that
to
there's a
be,
bunch of different 1% pools, and I'm going like, oh
yeah.
shit, yeah, you can do that. Wow. Like, people make a lot
I'm
of
just
money.
surprised. I'm surprised a lot of the new pools haven't just called themselves 1%
Not financial
until they got
advice.
enough stake and then switch the ticker. Like, yeah, don't do that, obviously, but nothing's stopping you.
And so the Cardano Foundation is working on some sort of, centralized registry. It's going to be centralized initially, but it's a registry where, like, if Tesla decides to put a coin on the Cardano network, like, there's only going to be one Tesla coin. I know people don't like the Tesla analogy, but there's going to be, kind of like SSL search or TLS search, there's going to be a central registry,
Yeah.
centralized at least at first. Even DIDs, right? Like centralized IDs. The way I understand it, and I'm not an expert, maybe other folks will understand that better, but not everything's on the blockchain. There's some of it on the blockchain, but the other part of the identity is in a centralized database somewhere off chain. And then the other thing that's super interesting, and I learned about this through actually I the King in one of his posts, where apparently the IOHK contract expires in 2025, and us as Cardano holders, assuming Voltaire is ready by then, which it should be, we'll be able to vote kind of the new creator or developer of Cardano.
Oh yeah, that's going to be huge. That's so bullish. It's bullish. It's very bullish. Not financial advice.
And I the King's poll, he was like, hey, who would actually go for Apple or vote for Apple, or another one of these large tech companies if they actually
they got a lot of votes.
Interest.
I remember.
Yeah,
that.
And it seemed like a lot of people voted for Apple instead of IOHK, which, like, whatever it'll be in 5 years, like, when we get to 2025, it'll be interesting to see how these various centralized points become more decentralized. And I think that long term, there may still be some points of centralization on the Cardano chain, but certainly the layer two things, the things that live on top of Cardano, whether it's private money or like Monero on Cardano, like a lot of folks want, like John McAfee and all those people, like they actually want private money, because right now, if I do any transaction, you can see exactly like how much ADA I have and every single NFT I've bought, which I haven't bought any. But the idea of having privacy on the blockchain, Charles has said he's not putting that on Cardano, but eventually other layer two protocols that run on Cardano will have privacy. So those are things I'm looking for when it comes to decentralization. We're certainly Shelley did a lot, but there's still a lot more that needs to be done.
Yeah, as I think Charles has described it, as essentially these other apps and different, whole infrastructures for something like a bank or, a hedge fund could use Cardano's accounting, but to the protocol itself, it would see this as like a black box. Whatever's happening in there is it's just running the numbers for whatever it is. So it's still going to be up to good people to, snuff out bad projects and scams, and cops ultimately are going to have to become essentially detectives in the future, are just going to become blockchain snoops. They're going to just be investigating intricacies of the blockchain. That'll probably be their whole, it's just, you're going to become a data analyst probably as a cop, but it's going to be good work because they'll probably be able to track a lot of crimes that maybe weren't discoverable till now, which maybe is a good thing. Well, that's definitely a good thing. But real quick, Guru, on a different note, I just wanted to tell you the Bank of England had a similar statistic. The Bank of England was founded in the late 1600s, but I could only get some info since 1860. But essentially, if you had a pound in 1860, so 1 pound is worth about nothing. You know what I mean? It's basically inflated to nothing. Whereas a dollar has the purchasing power of 3 cents. You know what I mean? Relatively.
So the Yanks have outperformed us yet again.
So what I'm saying though, no, is if you look at it historically, you guys are earlier in this process of centralization that inevitably leads, and I don't mean to sound like some wild communist or anything. I'm just saying that looks like a pattern to me, and we're just a little bit further down
Well,
and maybe have better technology, you know?
Here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. So if you zoom out even further, let's say we look at, human civilization when it came into the Indus Valley, right? What we found out is before that we had hunter-gatherers, so there was no centralization to a degree. You were pretty much independent little groups and you could do what you wanted. And what we found was when you centralized, there were loads of advantages. You gave away some of your personal autonomy, but you had security. You gave away the autonomy, but you had guaranteed food. You had a king and a god who would protect you. So that allowed civilization to flourish, and we had that system for a very long time. And I guess what I'm wondering a lot nowadays is, as a community, as a crypto community or a Cardano community, do we really understand what a decentralized community looks like? Because people are playing the very same old games. They're trying to take market share. They're trying to take land grabs. And you think, well, these are very old thinking. This is not the way things are going to work in the future. Also, I hope. So that's, what are your thoughts on that? Like, are these things that you ponder on?
Anyone want to take that one?
I think when we talk about this decentralization thing and kind of what kind of staking ecosystem are we looking for, it's kind of important to keep in mind that whatever K is, right, that optimized number of stake pools on the Cardano network, like there's been talk that maybe you delegate your voting rights in Catalyst or in other kinds of CIPs or that kind of thing to your stake pool operator. So your stake pool is not just your staking reward provider, but actually like almost more directly your voice on the network, right? And so I've been kind of thinking about it as stake pool operators to a certain extent are kind of like your representative, like your congressperson or your parliamentarian, whatever that would be called in the UK system or other systems like it. And so when you think about that, like a stake pool operator could be almost like a senator in the future, right? Because if we're building a global financial operating system and there's going to be 500 of these people, even when you look at like some of these elite groups like Davos, where every year the billionaires get together and wine and dine and talk to each other about the different problems in the world.
I went last year. It was all right. It was kind of
yeah, not bad, right?
You said Coachella, right? No.
But you get what I'm saying, right? Like that you can you imagine if one person was actually 20 people at that Davos get together, and or like it's just kind of insane to me that you would have that much kind of thing.
Won't even exist. I mean, it's just, it reminds me of this idea real quick. I think, and this could be something really cool for Catalyst potentially even, but what if you subscribed to a political party, which I know sounds like an absolute nightmare, but like the way you subscribe to a streaming service, because you're like, I like your guys' shit more than theirs. And but I was thinking, then the political parties just have to represent the best ideas that the community wants. And since it's auditable on blockchain, you could just say, I want to see where every dollar goes. And if it's not entirely above board and going towards the projects that I subscribe to, with my delegation, then we're going to get a new set of people running that political part. You know what I mean? I feel like it would purify it in a weird way.
420, have you seen the old Charles videos where he talks about liquid democracy?
I've seen a few of them. Yeah, I've been wanting to brush up on some of that. There's some good
stuff that was really cool.
Forum about it as well.
So
there's been some
basically,
threads.
When you sit through a whole bear market and you have nothing to do but look at losses, you tend to do a bit of research. And then, so I just watched lots of Charles videos for like 3 years of my life, and some of the stuff he was talking about was just amazing. I sat there and I thought, wow, this is so cool. Like, I want to be a part of this. How do I get involved? What do I do? And he was talking about liquid democracy and how you could have, votes and intermediaries if you chose to, or you could vote directly at any point. So that's what it was, liquid in that it wasn't stuck. So you didn't have a fixed system. You could say, look, I want to vote directly myself all the time. Or you can say, look, I'm not that interested, kind of interested. 420 is my guy. I'm going to give him my vote. He can do it for me. So that was amazing. And then at any point you can switch your vote. That was so cool. And it was always one stake, one vote. And Charles always used to say, who has the gold makes the rules. And I thought, well, on a consensus layer, actually, that's not bad. Now, you could have a higher layer on top of that. That's, one heartbeat, one vote. But that doesn't have to be part of consensus, because on a consensus level, I guess security comes from stake, and therefore whoever has the most stake should get the biggest say.
Well,
I think that's
and then
okay.
it just becomes a matter of distributing stake. And you know what? I was actually thinking about that a while back. What if part of your voting power in any given like town or municipality or state, wherever you live, however they do it, but you could be rewarded as part of like, and it's like a reverse state tax when you buy something at the store. You know what I mean? You get charged a tax. This is reverse. You get paid something by the local authority that rewards you, and you're represented in some little extra way on the blockchain in a local vote. And it could be by supporting local businesses that support positive growth in the community. You know what I mean? So you can just incentivize people to shop at their local stores, because that also means in the next local election their vote might count a tiny fraction more. I don't know. Just spitballing, but
I think if you look at centralizing powers, they always ended up wanting empires, because they eventually figured out that the more they could scale, the more powerful they could be, and therefore they could carry on scaling. And I think with decentralized networks, the value is going to come from the network of the users, and people will be incentivized to do more stuff like airdrops and, like you say, like almost like negative tax, because participation of a user is worth more to the network than the payment you give them. And that's going to change economics and the dynamics of money in a very strange way. And I don't know what's going to happen in that sense. And I've not really seen people, discuss that in the level of detail that, I think needs to be discussed.
and partly to me it's the building off of that, just to say, to me it's like a human. I believe that deep down the average person is good. You know what I mean? And I think some of these people with sociopathic tendencies, and they're just can be very intelligent, you know what I mean? And they're able to work their, I'm not saying every banker is a psycho or anything like that. There's great people in all industries. I just mean, like, when we decentralize power, I think it makes so many of these processes more positive overall, and then very rewarding to anyone with first mover advantage. Which
I think Charles always talks about pushing power to the edges, and that was beautiful. I heard that, and I thought, I want to live in that world. Then we're pushing power to the edges. You have the chance to secure the network, and you're not really delegating in a way. You're making, what's the word for 20? The polite word that you found last week or 2 weeks ago?
Oh, it's suboptimal delegation.
Yes, you're making suboptimal delegations. And that's what we need to try to work on.
You're not playing the staking game, which rewards you moving your stake among good pools, reliable nodes on the network.
Well, exactly.
Related to what you're saying. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, carry on, Marat.
So with this idea that 420 was talking about, that people are inherently good, or are people inherently evil, and does society keep them in check? Like, I think you kind of see this in play with this idea of why do you want to push power to the edges? Well, most people tend to believe that power inherently corrupts, right? And that it's quite hard as a human to resist the temptation, siren's call of doing things in your own self-interest, right? So I think that's kind of the sad part of the decentralization story to me, is that as it relates to Cardano and stake pools, is I don't really expect pools like Binance pools or these giant corporations who are getting in to do anything but act in the interest of their shareholders. But I do kind of expect like prominent individuals who are in the Cardano community to exercise some self-restraint when we're bootstrapping the network and getting set up. Thinking a little bit more in the long term, rather than just like making hay while the sun's out kind of thing.
And something to keep in mind in that, on that wavelength, is whenever I personally feel like I'm in a position of power, I just try to remind myself that's power wielding you. You know what I mean? It's a false. So just decentralization in general and equality in general. I know this is easy to say when you're sitting on some ADA, and I don't mean it in this way, but I am saying when we embrace that idea of like, I have enough, and part of, you know what I mean? Just trying to avoid these positions of centralized power because they just do inherently corrupt you. And it's because power just wants to extend itself and it'll just use you to do that. It's sick. It's weird, but it happens to really intelligent people, you know, for some reason. Well, and I understand why. You get rewarded and it seems like a
Yeah,
but anyways.
the intelligent thing to do is to take care of yourself so that you can, have more resources
exactly.
to provide for your family and those you care about, right? And not about the people you don't care about. So
yeah. Well,
I think
yeah.
I don't know if you guys have watched any Chamath videos. I can't say his surname, but I think you know what I'm talking about.
love Shaman.
Yes, and his videos are awesome. I think he done a great interview, maybe it was at Harvard, and he just talked about how, yes, money is not your aim, however, you need it to do good things. And therefore, if you can increase your leverage and therefore have more assets to do what you want to do that you think is good, it's better that you have it than the guy on the other side who just wants it to do something that you don't want to see happen, right? So if we don't turn up, if we don't do something, eventually all the psychopaths will have all the power, and that society will never change.
Oh, I know exactly the snippet you're talking about. I saw it like 2 days ago. Yeah, he's arguing about the, like, for better or worse, money is the fulcrum that we mount our leverage on. So get that money so you can get your vision out in the world.
It's the capitalist creed. It's like a global religion, and it's like
when I was
buying in.
When I was a naive undergrad student, right, my best friend wanted to become the president of Taiwan. And then he realized, oh, politicians are just, puppets. And so what I want to do is become an industrialist so that I can control the politicians and actually exercise power to try to improve the situation of the country. And money is your vote, essentially.
What if Jeff Bezos? What if? Because sometimes I wonder what drives him, but I was thinking, what if he is such a high level intellect that he literally realizes, like, okay, capitalism seems like this dominant power around the world. So if I just like beat the video game of capitalism, then I will beat the game of like life. And he's fucking doing it. Like, I mean, if you if you look at it from that perspective, he's making good time. He's cutting it a little close, but he might actually become a trillionaire. And it's essentially like that's a game breaking, game over, congratulations, end credits. Like there's no, but in a way, that's the system we've all bought into, really, at some level, in some way. Happy Epochs End, everybody. That's 270. That's 276.
Guru, I love you, but you really got to work on that distance between the microphone and your gong.
Fortunately, said it was better last week.
I have these really nice bows, and I love them, and I think they kind of protect me. I think they know when it's about to rock my eardrums, and it dulls it. So I can't speak on it. It doesn't sound bad to me. I think it's funny.
That was a religious experience right there.
Wake up, buddy. Sorry, yeah, it's late for some people. But that's 276, guys.
Cardano doesn't just enrich. It doesn't just enrich your wallet; it enriches your soul, and that's what we're here for.
And we're not doing financial advice; it's spiritual.
And your ear doctor.
But sorry, what were we talking about? I forgot where I was. I just started wandering around.
I have two Lovelaces to put down on the talk about the decentralization of governance. Nice. I think one particular thing that I'm dying to see come to life is exactly when the individuals are empowered to cast their own vote. Because I do believe that the vast majority are going to act on rational ignorance, and so they are going to delegate their voting power to someone that they believe is capable of that. So they don't have to be bothered spending all the time figuring out shit. But unlike how things work today, we are actually going to be able to see what the fringes, what the minorities of various issues and questions actually want, and with what leverage. Because right now, it's very much a winner-takes-all political systems with 2 or 3 parties in most Western countries. And so you don't really see that. You only really see it in the form of sensationalism headlines and shouting matches. But in this way, somebody that actually feels really strongly on something that goes against the populistic grain, you can actually see what is that sentiment. Is that 0.5% or is it 10%? Is it 40%? I'm really looking forward to that. It sounds like it's a small thing, but I think that in itself is going to be monumental.
Lead time, what would you say is the best way that what we're talking about could actually be implemented in the protocol? Because I don't have any knowledge of the inner workings of that. But what would you think would it incentivize this type of play the staking game and maybe move your stake around? You know what I mean? Because that's part of it, is the protocol should incentivize that behavior.
Moving the stake around. So I'm personally, I look at delegation as sort of a Patreon function in it. Because if you really just want to maximize your returns of it, then it's almost impossible not to end up in a scenario where the exchanges is definitely going to be the number one for you to choose. So the question is, why would you choose anything other than maximizing your return? Well, that would be because you believe that you in some way, direct or indirectly, gain more value by giving it to someone else. And so whether or not that's a person that you believe is a strong representative that you want to support in Cardano, or whether it's some entertainer that's giving you kicks or giggles. And I think that's the way that staking is really going to manifest. And I think it already has, or is in the precipice of manifesting in that way. To get people to move it around, that's really difficult. I think that the system at its core has to create incentives for you to move it around. Otherwise, people are going to just delegate their values as soon as they figure out who the best pool for that is.
That's fair. That makes sense.
One thing I think people don't really take into account when they think about staking is like the medium to long-term implications for their staking decision on the value of the network. And what is that? What do I mean by that? Like, of course, you might be able to, milk the system for an ADA or 2 extra per epoch by a staking choice in
that's a great point.
A larger saturated pool, but at what cost, right? Because when we have this debate, we're always talking like among stake pools, but like people, I'm not sure you're aware of this, but there are other blockchains out there, right? And one of the metrics that most blockchains compete on
do forget sometimes,
is this kind of, what Nakamoto consensus number kind of thing. Like how many people do you need to get in a room to basically control the network? And if our number is not competitive, if a handful of people or 20 people can get in a room and basically, make large decisions about the network, you're basically trusting that humans won't, connive together to protect their self-interest, which is not a great idea.
And to Cardano's credit, like in what you're saying right now, it's almost to Cardano's credit, like no average cryptocurrency or currency holder for that matter has ever been empowered so easily with such a low barrier to entry by a cryptocurrency ever before. It's never been a thing. It's always been a scam if you had any type of guarantees like 5%, interest. I've always just thought any crypto that was like marketing that there was some type of inflation rate or whatever, like I just automatically thought scam. But with Cardano, I can tell friends and family, like, all you have to do is set up this fucking wallet and you're making 5% on your money. Like, get that through your head and just do it. It takes like 30 minutes. You're done. And just do it the right way.
Not financial advice.
Not financial advice. But
yeah.
To be fair,
some extra
non-financial. And it takes people to catch up to understand, like, oh, yeah, this is an empowering thing for me. And people just have to embrace that,
100%. I want to build on that. So something that I didn't realize myself until like a month ago is that you're not just getting 5% extra, because most people hear that and then they compare it to the only thing they really can, which would be like a savings account, where maybe if they're lucky they're getting 1 or 2% on that. But that's not comparable at all, because the savings account is going to net you like 1, 2, 3% on an inflationary centrally controlled currency. And so when you factor in CPI and general inflation in that, the purchasing power is not going to grow by very much, if it's even going to be growing these times at all. But with Cardano, you're actually getting a 5% increase in purchasing power because it's a deflationary asset.
And that's an example of it paying you. So instead of paying taxes when you use your money and there just being taxes and all these weird little intricate expenses that are built into the use of cash and like any currency is reverse now with Cardano. And we have to like, that's an exciting part of it. And that reverse tax is boosted, that reward to you is boosted by certain behaviors in your delegation. And so communicating that to people is big. I mean, that's a big thing. And there's a lot of people flooding into Cardano, and it's only going to get worse. It's only going to increase. And by that, I just mean people who get excited and get turned on to it, and they buy some and they're holding, but they don't totally grasp how delegation works. And that's okay, you know, it's just something to be ready for. Because I don't think that's just going to keep building.
You just need a funnel and a pipeline, and that's, I guess, what, you know, Guru is doing, and you are doing for 20 by having this kind of on-ramp and a kind of alternative way for people to get educated, other than the main way, which I guess is YouTube right now.
And to be fair, some of these like centralizing forces in terms of like nodes and block production are also responsible for introducing a lot of people to Cardano who would not have heard of it otherwise and who are benefiting immensely from it. And who am I to say? It's an interesting dynamic that it's so fascinating how the code and the protocol is going to meet with the realities of human like psychology, and you know what I mean, because it's still a work in progress. It's still we're in the early stages, you know.
That's the funny thing, though, because I mean, whenever we have this, I have never really gotten a straight answer from one of them. I have no issue with these big pool operators making the level of money they do. I just wish they would do it by raising their fee rather than by opening more pools, because right, you could run a 4% pool, a 4% fee pool, and get, you know, 4 times the money at your 1% pool, and you'd still be making a similar amount of money, but you wouldn't be centralizing
we have the SPO of 1% pool here. His name is CardanoGuru. You can ask him. I mean, what are your motivations?
I have to feed my demons.
He's like, I wanted more boats. It's like, okay, cool.
Once you have a boat for 20, the only thing that will make you happy is more boats.
I've been told that the 2 happiest days of a boat owner's life is the day they buy it and then the day they sell it. I thought that was funny because apparently they're just a total pain in the ass to maintain. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Decentralization.
420, should we decentralize conversation and see if anybody else wants to speak?
We should. I've actually been approving a couple speakers who I have been having some glitches. So if anybody hasn't gotten accepted in a bit, please don't feel bad.
I think Eva wanted to speak. I don't know, Eva, if you put in a request. If you put in a request, 420 will approve it. Anybody else wants to speak, just shout out and let us know what you think.
Oh, okay. There we go. Just approved for speaker. Hello. Welcome. Happy Epochs End 276.
Hi, thank you. Yes, now I got the time to speak. Yeah, I'm here to introduce myself, so thank you for this opportunity. And I think it's just the perfect session I chose this time when you were speaking about decentralization and so on, because maybe a little bit about my background. I don't have a technical background, but I'm quite political, and the reason why I'm here is that I just simply believe in what Cardano is doing. And we were talking about decentralization and politics and power, and these are all things I really care about. And I just see a lot of value that is provided by Cardano. And my main goal is simply to support this project and also try to do my own part and provide value to the community as well. So I started different projects, and the the current one, or the at the moment the most present one for myself, is my ginger pool. Everything got very exciting because I just got my first delegations. I finished my website, and actually today I minted the first block, which was also pretty exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And yes, and another project I'm part of, which is pretty exciting, is the Great Filter, which is a project catalyst proposal that was just funded. It was from Fund 4, and there we were a group of 4 SPOs in total, and 2 others of them are also here, which are Bullish Dumpling and Lead Time Null from Fika and Nanipool. So it's always a pleasure to work with you. Exactly. The Great Filter is basically, or the problem is that there are so many proposals in Project Catalyst that it's for a normal user just simply very complicated to go through all of them. And our goal is to simply save time by introducing a filter system where we have a very clear guidelines of what a proposal should bring and what should be included. And the current state is there now. We are waiting for the instructions of Project Catalyst. And
that's really exciting, and congrats on the Fund 4 success.
Thank you.
The thing that's interesting about that project is it sounds like it's almost like a piece of infrastructure for ADA, you know, and these projects, it's so cool to get to talk to the people who are developing, because there's so much utility in being able to have an open source DApp that you can use to filter projects and make sure your votes go into the type of projects you want, and then being able to track those after. I don't know if that's going to be part of it eventually, but to be able to keep up with projects down the line as further funds, it can all be, in one place, organized. And anyways, it's really cool. I hope that goes well. I'm sure it will.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yeah, exactly. It's again, to me, it's the same topic of providing value, and here it is in form of a platform that we try to build up. But there's actually another very cool project I want to quickly introduce. A couple of epochs ago, Bullish Dumpling already did that, and which is Yufu Patterson, and I am very happy to also work again together with Bullish Dumpling and Lead Time Null on an NFT project, and they had the great idea.
It's becoming a very strong project.
It's pretty cool because it's the very first Cardano themed jewelry. So it's an actual, a tangible piece that you can wear. You can show what you like also in real life, and it's a very special NFT project. And I'm very happy to be part of it. I helped them with marketing and social media, and I got pretty involved there as well. And yeah, maybe that's the very last point I want to tell about myself is, I think, or this is another reason why this Epochs End was so interesting to me, because Monad was here. I'm also very much into NFTs. I have a background in architecture and a lot of knowledge in art, so that's very interesting to me as well. And the whole topic of art that is based on algorithms, this is something that I also want to discover for myself. So I'm working there and trying to find out what I can do and what else is there, because this is a complete new era of art to me.
I also have 2 graduate degrees in architecture, so hello, architect.
Oh, really? Hello.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, that was me. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for sharing in Epochs End. And the main thing we ask for is that you just come back and give us updates. That's the beauty of these shows. We can keep up with every project and get to talk to the people behind some of these ideas. So that's a really cool thing. So yeah, Biopool just gave you speaker ability. Welcome, sir. Happy Epochs End.
Yeah, hello, good evening, guys. Yeah, I'm not a native English speaker, so don't go hard on me, please. And I just want to introduce myself and what got me here to Cardano as well. And it's like I'm not like in the tech part of it, and I get in pretty late. And for me, it was a pretty hard time and tough as well. And well, for me, this whole thing with adoption is a whole new thing, I think, because I'm not speaking about power or anything to get like skyrocket like the mindset you share at the very first. And for me, it's like I'm doing charity since like almost a decade now, which together with my wife. And I think the adoption we try to get in is people who care about projects, and not only my projects. So there's a couple of valuable mission-driven pools within this awesome community, and we just started with Twitter since this year, and we have not done anything before in social media, so we're pretty new to this. But we love to get in touch with all the people inside here, and it's pretty amazing to have all these amazing, like really amazing people in here who care or who stand for something. And I think, in my opinion, the project I was doing with my pool is trying to find adoption within the whole charity part of it, within the whole environmental protection part of it. And I do think a couple more years into this, I think we can do like a lot more than just giving out a couple $100 for donations. I think we can like do really good savings in the world if stuff happen. If we can form like an arc or something, or like an armada or something of SPOs, and I mean we can just mint blocks for like a month or so, and put it in a project like a typhoon hit Thailand, or like an earthquake in Italy, or a forest fire in Australia. So this is my mindset about this. I think we can do really good stuff in the future just by running the tech. I mean, it's just basically it's a win-win situation for all of us, for the pool owner, for the delegates. It's just a win-win, and you don't need to spend a single dollar into it. You just
and that's the idea, though, is that Cardano is empowering people in a way that's kind of foreign. So like, why wouldn't we expect some 20th century, thinking to contaminate? Like we should only expect some of these things, and we should just tell people, when you
yeah,
are
absolutely.
empowered on Cardano and you use it for good,
Yeah,
you benefit from doing good things. Like the protocol rewards
we
you
all do.
for being
We all do.
conscious of where you're keeping your wealth.
Yes, true. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I'm
This
sure your
is
pool will be a success. I don't know what the current delegation status is, but I think if you are committed to it, I can't see why it wouldn't be a success, over time.
Oh, well, I'm not speaking about myself. I'm speaking about all pools, because this is a whole
Yeah.
single pool operator thing. I mean,
Yeah.
we all need success. We all need adoption, and we all need to get support in our pools. It's not just mine. I mean, I just merged with a very great guy. It's James from Noah's Ark, and we are pretty much like-minded, and I would call it like brothers from another mother, but it's ridiculous. He's the most awesome. Yeah, really, he's the most awesome guy I met in this whole community so far. And well,
He
we
does
share the
great.
same.
He does great TikToks. I've seen his TikToks, and I was like, oh wow,
Yeah.
this guy's really good at communicating like quickly and getting a lot of information in.
So we merged, and this was the best we could do. So we can like get one pool running and do all the donations, and be sure to make at least one block an epoch, or to get all the donations going, all the projects like going that we want to support with our money. And well, this is it's just a super good opportunity. So I would recommend people, if you cannot get your pool going, just do something together, make it together, make it happen. Yeah, it will happen. Yeah.
That's an interesting point. Yeah.
I'm super supportive. I really like what you guys did with that, because I think a lot of small pool operators, which I include myself as one of them, maybe we sound like we're just like bitching and moaning all the time about getting stake, but I think merging your pool is one of the few things you can do that, yeah, it makes you, you get less rewards as a pool operator, but I would rather have one like pool on semi-solid footing than two struggling pools, right? Because I do think that that is in the interest of the network in the long
Absolutely.
term. So I really applaud your guys' initiative on that. I know we had a little bit of a disagreement in a group, but I think that was a very brave move to do, and I hope that more pools who are struggling can see that look to that as a possible model. So
Well, it's
thank you
definitely
very much for
it's a
that.
good thing for two pools to go to one pool rather than two pools to go to zero. You know what I mean? And sometimes
Yeah, yeah.
it can be kind of become a burden. And to be fair, though, on the other end, some people do just bitch and moan about delegation a lot, which I also on the other end want to tell them like, dude, be happy. You're like part of history right now. You're doing something like you're part of a point
Absolutely.
zero zero zero
Yes.
zero 0.001%. So just stick it
Yes.
out, you know, keep trying, keep going, and you're not going to look back and regret that you were a dedicated node on Cardano. I just can't imagine a future. You know what I mean? It just seems like such a win-win. So that's been for me. I've produced 3 blocks and like that's I mean
That
anyways,
is
I'm like
awesome.
elated about that. So anyway.
No, this is awesome. I mean, it's like the best opportunity. It's like we are. I think we are writing history right now. I mean it sounds big, but it is true. I mean, we're doing something, yeah, and we are getting people into this, and all of us. So everybody in here, every single pool operator, is a worthy or valuable guy who get people into this adoption, yeah, and we make it happen, all of us, yeah.
It's a very positive story. I think, I think it was Eva or Ginger who was saying, why she got involved. And I think it kind of comes to an interesting thing that all of us are participating in Cardano right now, even if you're just, listening and considering, buying your first ADA. And I like this, I don't know what comic book kind of thing, to those who, no, that's not a comic book. I think this is a Bible thing. To those who much is given, much is expected, which I'm confusing with the Peter Parker Spider-Man. With
With
great
great
power
power
comes great
comes great
great
responsibility. Yeah.
responsibility. Yeah, but
Everyone knows the Peter Parker one, but not the Bible.
Well,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
That is our
they're
current
both good.
society.
yeah.
They're
That
both good.
Marvel is a god, right? But what I'm trying to say with that is that I chose to open a stake pool because I really liked Cardano and I had the technical ability to do it, to open a pool. And I thought that one step increased the decentralization of the network by that much more. So I was essentially voting with my feet and my time to
That's a fact.
to
Yeah.
to
No,
do that,
that's a
right?
fact. Yeah.
But I think everyone who wants the project to succeed, whatever your experience and background is, like you can ask yourself that question. I think this is a JFK quote now, like what can you do for the network, not what the network can do for you, right? If you have a social media background, if you make great cookies or whatever, right? Like how do you use your skill set to advocate and help the network develop and spread, not to turn it into like an
And
MLM
but no,
or
but
a
also
kind
it
of thing.
appeals to that sense, but it also appeals to it's a prudent financial decision to invest time
Yeah.
into maintaining the integrity of the network. You know what I mean? Because you're rewarded
Yeah,
for it in its own way too. It's not purely altruistic. You know what I mean? But that's great.
definitely.
So you're aligning the incentives so like we can sleep at night and not feel like we're sacrificing our morals, but at the same time you can pursue your pursuit of happiness, in the spirit of July.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Just you can pursue as long as you're not hurting anybody else. Yeah, you can pursue your own idea of happiness, and if that's making a bunch of money, fine. But we're gonna limit you at the point where you start to hurt people, and the protocol is
And
gonna
yeah.
even limit that type of behavior. Which
and
is
you
insane.
don't need a volcano.
I just wanted to give a shout out real quick to we don't do stake pool promos here, but CBS pool we do shout outs. We do. What am I saying? But CBS has been posting a few of the Epochs End on YouTube, which has been really cool, and really appreciate you. I think his pool just went live recently. He's got 3 million delegated, so he's already kicking my ass. Looks like he got a nice big whale. But dude, congrats on that. That's awesome. And thanks for
Congratulations
posting our
and
stuff on
thank you.
YouTube. Which we now have Epochs End on YouTube, so that's pretty cool. If anybody's interested in can't tune in live, but you want to go listen back later.
Yeah, we'll
I
post
want
a
to do
link.
sorry, I want to do a quick iteration on what you 420 EU and Monad just said right now, because I think it's a very important point. The whole using what you can to strengthen the network, and also the prudence of that financially, not financial advice. Because if you are
Not financial advice.
if you are delivering value to the network consistently, there is no way that you're not going to be rewarded for that. Like,
That's
absolutely.
like it's like getting into the oil business right after, the Model T was invented or some shit. You know what I mean? It's like it's just you stumble. It's such a beautiful thing for me, at least in my life, that I'm just so grateful I did discover Cardano when I did, because it was totally dumb luck, and I'm so glad it caught my attention, because the more I've looked into it, the more already I've been rewarded. Even if
My
I'm
nephew,
yeah.
my nephew in 2016 came to me and said, "There's a thing called Ethereum, and Google are working with it. You should really look into it." And I said, "I'm really busy. I'm a finance person, and I know about finance, and you don't know what you're talking about. So go away." And that didn't end well. So, yeah.
What we have a Bullish Dumpling on. Hello, Bullish Dumpling.
Hi, Twitter keeps logging me out, so thank you for 20.
No worries.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can everybody hear Bullish
Loud and
Dumpling?
clear.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, happy Epochs End, everyone. Christian, Eva, a really warm welcome. In case anybody doesn't know yet, Eva is studying at Oxford University. Very cool.
That is impressive.
I'm here to bring you your epochly dose of China update, of course.
Yes.
So from my Chinese sources, unofficial source, so don't quote me on that, Huobi exchange, they might be having some trouble later down the road. Huobi, one of the biggest exchanges, but I'm talking about their Chinese branch. So a week ago, a Chinese delegator approached and mentioned to me that quite many Huobi developers are interviewing at other exchanges because they want to leave Huobi and because they don't see a long future in that exchange. And a few days later,
one of the biggest Chinese cryptocurrency exchanges or currency exchanges.
Sorry, it's cryptocurrency.
I'm not sure. Cryptocurrency,
one of the
okay.
Yeah, they're really big, and they also have Huobi International. But I'm talking about the Huobi Chinese branch. And after the delegator approached me saying that some developers are leaving, a few days later, Huobi Exchange shut down their OTC trades in China. So are those two incidents related? Could it be that Huobi is having some trouble, or could it be they're just trying to please the Chinese regulators to be more compliant? We don't know yet. But I know some delegators are also telling me that they're moving money off Huobi Exchange to other exchanges or to the ADA wallets. So it's good to let the entire community know as well, even though now it's only in China. And so if anything develops, I will keep you updated.
Hopefully, do you think, Dumpling, that maybe the people at the top of the Chinese government, right? Maybe they will see, I even have faith. I have faith that even some of the people who, like, everyone is there's so much tension around, I just think no matter where you are, there's good inside everybody. And the people of China are going to see that Cardano is a good thing. And we were talking earlier about how it's not good for committing crime at all. It's like the last thing you want to use in its current state. So it's I think every culture and every government too is going to see the benefits of, oh wow, this is just great accounting. This is just a great protocol. And I hope I love the update. Thank you so much. And I think Cardano is going to be an awesome bridge. I can see it becoming like a bridge to these different places where people are kind of united in a different way that goes around the state.
Absolutely.
But there's still obviously a purpose for the state and all that, but people can connect in a different way too, which is really cool.
The Cardano Foundation has the long-term goal of adopting 1 billion users and providing services to nation level. So why don't we dream about maybe one day China can even adopt Cardano, because tech-wise, I see great benefit. Yeah, why wouldn't we?
Maybe
Yeah.
that's what they're planning. They're saying get all this dirty Bitcoin stuff out of here so we can embrace Cardano. I mean,
Yes, that's what
has
I've been
anyone
telling.
proposed that?
We should propose that.
420, that is a very interesting point, actually. If I was going to move to proof of stake, what's the first thing I would do?
Right?
That is smart. I like it. You've impressed me today.
The
You know what?
Chinese
You can
people are
mint.
very intelligent. I mean, these people invented paper, and they invented paper, it appears, using hemp paper. I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe, but as far as I can tell, what I read, they think the first paper ever made was in China, and it was on hemp
They
paper.
also invented the first paper currency in China. And on a serious note, China is very serious on developing blockchain technology, but the government really doesn't like crypto trading and crypto promotions marketing. It's part of the reasons they're cracking down on some exchanges.
That's so fascinating. Yeah,
I mean, the
I love
exchanges
the
are
update. Thank you,
getting.
Dumpling. That was awesome.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much. I was going to ask you a request for that earlier, but I thought you would eventually come if I was patient. So thank you. It's really good to hear that angle.
Yep.
I think the Huobi, they were quite friendly with the government, so I'm surprised that they're getting cracked down on, which is interesting. Someone must have been not paid enough at some point. Sorry,
No, they haven't
speculation.
They are voluntarily shutting down their OTC trades, and Binance hasn't followed suit. So Huobi seems like they're taking the lead of, being self-regulating. Maybe that's one of
Ah,
our.
maybe because they
Yeah.
were quite friendly, so I'm assuming they're being the good guys then in that case.
Yeah. Huobi literally means currency. So
For those
Oh,
that
right,
aren't
yes.
familiar, OTC trade is over-the-counter trade, and it's how how a lot of wealthy individuals, who don't want to move the market, try to get a significant position in a cryptocurrency or other asset without, broadcasting a giant buy or sell wall on an exchange. It's interesting to me because I know I think one of the big issues the Chinese government has with cryptocurrencies is like a capital flight or
yeah,
people taking their money out, and so OTC is definitely more like a white glove service for high end clientele, and I could understand why the Chinese government or why Huobi might be clamping down on that to address some concerns by
yep.
getting money out of China.
Thank you.
You rock, Dumpling.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's gonna be fascinating. It's a fascinating thing to watch these like huge, powerful, commanding industries just grapple with the impending fact that they're just obsolete. Like blockchain just makes them obsolete, and they're gonna just be left wearing no clothes, and they're gonna look like idiots. And the ones who adapt are gonna do well, and they're gonna embrace blockchain. But like,
They never adapt, fortunately. They never
but they're
adapt.
obsolete, and some people are going to be late to the recognition of this is an obsolete industry. It serves no purpose anymore. It's not a personal thing. It's just there's not going to be a need for the banking industry as we now think of it. It's not going to need to exist. We don't need it anymore. It's kind of like a liberating thing, but you
I
can see
kind
why
of
if you're
wonder about that
making
though.
billions of dollars off it, you wouldn't want to embrace that.
I don't know. I might challenge you on that one a little bit. Like, I think the average person
Please.
does not have a mind for understanding like their financial like future a little bit. Not to be like too elitist, but like what percent of the population understands marginal tax rates, right? Like you always hear this like rather ridiculous argument. I don't want to make more money because I don't want to get bumped into a higher tax bracket and then end up owing more money. But if you know how marginal tax rates work, that's not ever going to happen to you. And so what I'm saying is like blockchain technology provides a financial stack
Yeah.
that is there that provides all this stuff, all these other services to be built on. But there will still be some kind of facilitation of services or even, a way
Of
of
course, there's going to be a
providing, right?
financial
Yeah.
industry. Of course. Yeah, I'm sorry. There's still going to be financial services but in its current form, you would agree, right? Like it's the current central banking system that exists now has a lot of personal growth to experience, I think, before it gets
Yeah,
to
I
where
mean,
it's ultimately going.
to be clear, I'm eagerly anticipating and waiting for the JP Morgans of the world and those people to go tits up, right? But
They call it the
it's,
widowmaker
yeah.
trade, though, the trade against the central bank historically has been widowmaker. But we have Patrick on here. I don't know if we've
Hey.
never spoken before. Welcome.
So thank you. Two things about it. First, just about this comment. I actually work in what you call fintech as we speak.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend anybody.
I'm here, right? Like there's a reason I'm interested and I'm here.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So because what I mean by that is to Monad's point, this idea of what the services are is very different than what the ledgering is, right? And there's a lot of different nuances and needs for the servicing. I do think something that's an important piece of what it is like, it's one thing to say JP Morgan, but it's another thing to say you're like local community banks or who's serving the the small business community, whatever it may be. And I do think Cardano is a great, vehicle to do so. But the sort of disruption around that would sort of have to happen, it needs to happen, that takes into account the communities that they're serving, right? Like being right, but the whole thing's burning around you. Well, I'm not really sure that matters, right? So I wanted to go back to something that Ginger said to give my sort of experience of why I'm here, because getting involved is much more around something. Like I got involved because I got in because I saw an unsig, right? And unsig sort of fit this weird mix of my background in art history and financial services and technology. And I just said, oh, like actually, because I've been in blockchain and Bitcoin and looking at it for enterprise value for probably 5 years now, and I've basically just never used it. But now I have, right? And I would suggest and really challenge this group, because I've been really enjoying being part of this community in the past, honestly, month, and make it useful. Right. For me, it was getting into an unsing of art, and those projects are really where that happens.
So wait, I did need to unpack. You got into Cardano because of unsigned algorithms?
I have held Cardano for years.
Okay.
Unsigned out, but that was only because I was comparing it against understanding Bitcoin and understanding Ethereum, but then I was dabbling in DeFi and Ethereum, and it's just a pain in the ass, and I hated it. But the only reason I've ever spent a single Cardano was because of unsigned algorithms. But I've been
he's got diamond hands.
Yeah, but I've been sitting there waiting. But being in the financial services world, I agree with you in sentiment. But I think what I'm just trying to say is there's a path by which you can provide that value by making it useful with projects, and people will leave, right? And leaving the banking system once you go to this is really, really powerful. But it just seems so inapproachable because it's a bunch of people talking around decentralization and power, which I get it, but make it real, right? And for me, it was an art project, but that's exactly what I'm trying to do is how do you go take this to communities, right? And it's cool to be on Twitter, but like I got my neighborhood grocery store that I got to worry about too.
It's a great point. That's an interesting perspective too of like, people who, again, I don't mean to paint with a broad like brush, I meant it more as like the talented people who have real utility and real contributions to make to society, who are in the financial, industry, who are working at some quote unquote, like working for the man or whatever, some big bank. They're gonna flourish as blockchain kind of becomes more dominant in like mainstream society. They're gonna do well. I think it's gonna reward people who are doing honest, good work, which is definitely being done in the financial industry. It's just, and I don't mean to be present.
No, you should.
One thing.
What I'm saying is you should. Like I'm not like the big banks and what they're doing, and the financialization of all things has been very terrible for our society, right? And we're living. It's why blockchain existed, right? The 2008 mortgage crash was because there was zero transparency from all these smart people making derivative swap collateral, blah 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 blah. But they had no idea what was going on. That's impossible to do. Not impossible, but like it's a really interesting thing of the concepts behind financial services are really great. The application of them are really terrible, but it's a function of technology, and they're at the end of an era, and it's they're trying to catch up.
And the part of the function of the technology too, which is part of the great part, is the policy of the currency of the money is built into the protocol, so it's not set to any real like human actors, whereas as opposed to a centralized bank. Anyways, we don't need to go down the rabbit hole again, but it's just cool. It's just the more we decentralize power and control, I think is a good thing. And people who are working in the best interest of all people and of most people will be rewarded,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, awesome. Thanks for jumping in.
Yeah,
that was cool. Guru, are you are you ready to pick a winner for this week's exclusive NFT?
Oh, I think Biopool, Christian, he made some good points, and he touched me in ways that few people can. So thank you for your contribution.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much, really, Guru. This is awesome. Well,
I was just thinking, sorry to cut you off. What about an idea of like an Epochs End where when you get the NFT, the person can submit a photo that will put on NFT Space? You know what that is, where it's doing that collage of photos, and we can start building like a little galaxy of, winners of, an Epochs End show NFT. And
That's
it could be
very
a photo
cool.
of someone's face. It could be a photo of their whatever they want it to be. Like they could just send it
And
to
I-
us, and that becomes
I,
their official.
I think you just created yourself some work there, fortunately.
And then, and then after a few months, we just go, hey, if you want to be on the Epochs End NFT list, pay us 15,000 ADA. That's the way the world works, buddy.
And then we can beat the bird at his own game.
You want to be immortalized on blockchain? Pay up. Anyways, I think I gotta start to wrap it up, guys. But it's been an awesome one.
No, that was a good Epochs End. We started a bit aggressive. The energy wasn't good, but I feel better now. So thank you, everyone. I had a good Epochs End.
If anybody
thank you
has
very
anything
much.
to add real quick, sorry to anybody who didn't get to speak. It's hard to manage it, and there were some technical difficulties. So, so who wins the NFT? Sorry.
Christian from Biopool.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a jerk. Christian, if you don't mind, just send me, just DM me a receiving address, and just be patient with me. It will get to you though. I got a little running list.
420 does a good job. So thank you, 420. Again, you've managed it so well. We haven't missed one so far. Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
Hey, and we hit 600 followers, so shout out to you guys for that. That's awesome. And for some reason, we couldn't set up the space. But in the very near future, maybe hopefully by next Epoch, we'll be able to have a space from Epoch.
Yeah, I think exactly. When the space says Epochs End, I think that would be nice. I think currently we might have a few difficulties because your account says 420 and not everyone's 420 friendly.
No, and I don't want to limit the conversation over something so trivial.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think when the new account gets going, that